Well, I'm Steve Hopkins, and I'm here in the living room of Dr. Wayne House here in Silverton. And Dr. Wayne and I have gotten together for the past couple of years, and we've talked over coffee about a lot of issues, theology, life, culture, Christianity, and Christ. And we have decided that we might like to record some of these conversations because it might be some benefit to you. So that's the purpose of it. And this is Dr. Wayne House. And you have a doctor before your name. What are you a doctor of?
Well, I'm a doctor in two areas. I have a doctorate in theology, and I also have a doctorate in law. I taught constitutional law at a law school full-time for some time, but eventually went back and began teaching at seminary again. Mm-hmm. And right now I'm a professor at Faith Evangelical Seminary in Tacoma, Washington.
And you've also taught at Dallas Theological Seminary?
I was a professor several years at Dallas Theological Seminary and Trinity International University with their graduate school in the area of theology. And so just a variety of things, written quite a bit in all these areas.
You have written a few books, haven't you?
Quite a few.
Over 70, is that correct?
Over what?
Over 70?
No. I've written more than that in articles, but I've written about 35 books.
Okay, 35 books.
Yeah.
That's great. Dr. Wayne, one of the things that we always talk about quite often is this whole issue of Calvinism and Arminianism. I personally don't even like the terms because I think that we lose, there's a lot of baggage that's imported with both of those terms. I tend to think of it more in terms of the sovereignty of God and the free choices of man. And that seems to be a topic of discussion as of late again. The sovereignty of God, and does man really have a choice? Or is man truly responsible? When I think of, and what I hear from a lot of folks, when we think of the term the sovereignty of God, and especially in Calvinism, it kind of puts God in a bad light. And we always tend to move towards fatalism, that everything is worked out, whereas Arminianism seems to be just random chance, and we can't really go there either. Is there any insight you give to us to help us solve this riddle?
Well, Steve, I think part of the problem is that people have either not understood, distorted, or in some way misrepresented what these positions are. And that's not only true with Calvinism, that's true with Arminianism. I mean, some people writing and speaking in the area really have never studied the thinking of Arminius or his disciples and Calvin and his disciples. And we really are responding oftentimes to a caricature that other people have painted who may have not even read these people. And that's not uncommon just in theology. That's true in law. And my goodness, I remember listening to a woman on the radio. It's a good thing I didn't have a cell phone in those days. And she was talking about the founding of our country. And she called in to the radio station and said, listen, I have a master's in history, and I can tell you categorically that George Washington was an atheist. And I thought, huh? What's her history master's in Bolivian history or what? I mean, how could a person say, I mean, if so, he wrote some of the most beautiful prayers I've ever read an atheist write.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And being a vestryman of the Church of England, I mean, having signed the 39 Articles of the Church of England, look at those in the 18th century and see what they said. They were orthodox to the core. In the same way in theology, people sometimes talk about things and they really have not read the people or have not studied it out thoroughly. And you have even people who have written books, and I'll not mention names here. The people I know who've written books about Calvinism, and after I read the book, I'm thinking, first of all, the person doesn't even understand it, and I wonder even if the person ever read in the area, because they betrayed such a poor knowledge. Secondly, about the terms, is that terms develop over a historical period of time, and it's very difficult to get rid of terms. It's like this. I mean, are you willing to say, I'm a creationist or I'm an evolutionist? Mm-hmm. Are you willing to say, for example, that I'm a fundamentalist or an evangelical? We use terms, and terms serve an important function. For example, let me just use the word creationist and evolutionist. I believe in evolution, and you do too. Most everybody I know does. That is, that we believe things develop and change. And I believe in reference to this debate that there is actually what is called microevolution, that there have been incremental changes on a horizontal plane, not vertically, but a horizontal plane among animals like dogs and cats and humans and so forth, that we've had variety in changes, and that has been impacted somewhat by the environment, sometimes by genetics. We believe in that. I don't believe in macroevolution. So sometimes how we use our terms makes a lot of difference in this debate. And if you were to say, do you believe in evolution? I'd say, well, yes, I do believe in a form of it, but not Darwinian evolution. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with Calvinism. Do you believe in Calvinism? Well, yeah. That means you're a fatalist, you're a Muslim or something. I mean, you know, all these terms come out. I was saying, would you please explain to me what you're talking about? Are you talking about the historical debate? Are you talking about Calvin himself? What are we discussing? Same thing with Arminius. I would challenge people who say they're Arminian to read Arminius, because I like Arminius. And many of his disciples went astray, I think, but Arminius himself was a pretty good scholar, and I've got his works, and I've read Arminius. So terms are difficult to get away from. I've had people say, well, I'm not a Calvinist or Arminian, I'm a biblicist. And I'm saying, what a cop-out. Everybody I know is a biblicist. All the Arminians I know who are biblicists, all the Calvinists I know who are. Who's going to say, I don't care about the Bible. You know, I don't follow the Bible. I'm in this debate, but I use something other than Bibles to form my foundation, or what I understand to be truth. So nomenclature is with us. Mm-hmm. And so would I agree with everything that Calvinist followers said? No. Would I agree with everything that Arminius' followers said? No. But I'm not going to call myself a Calvinian, per se, because that's just a cop-out like the word biblicist. For example, I'm a creationist. Does that mean that, and let's get away from the evolution issue, I'm a creationist. What does that mean? Does that mean I believe the earth was created in 6 days, or that we're 6,000 years old as a planet? Or does that mean that I believe in long periods of time, maybe millions of years? Do I believe that each of the days were actually solar days, 24-hour days, but in between each of these days was a long period of time, like progressive creationists hold, and many very fine scholars who are evangelicals to hold today, who are viewed by most listening to this as being very, very orthodox. Gleason Archer was a great guy. He believed in day-age theory. Some other people believed in gap theories.
That's right.
In past times. I think they're all creationists. I don't think they're evolutionists at all. They're all creationists. And yet they hold a lot of divergent viewpoints. And I've taught my students over the time, I said, you know what, I think it's important to become knowledgeable of your theological position and to be convinced of a view. Don't just be an agnostic theologically. Be convinced. Come to understanding the best you can hold it and follow it and say, that's what I believe to be true.
When you say agnostic theologically, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I don't have a position. I'm just sort of leave it all in the air. I'm not going to argue for anything. I just sort of leave my mind blank. Or sort of like the independents at election day. They're still flipping the coin as they go to the voting booth. I made it my decision a long time ago. I looked at the views. I ran the positions of the candidates and what they held to be true and other considerations. I made a decision. I'm ready to go. And some people are flipping the coin on the way to the voting booth. I don't like that kind of idea. I think you need to come to a view. At the same time, with your theological position, develop a little humility.